With an estimated cost of $13 billion, the North Houston's Highway Improvement Project is one of the largest and most expensive highway projects in American history. Stretching up to 24 miles, the project doesn't just aim to widen lanes, but promises to redesign major interchanges, move entire sections of freeways, and rebuild the spine of Houston's transportation network. As with any project of its size, the expansion has understandably been described as a game changer for the city. But it also hasn't come without its fair share of controversy and criticism. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into this major project reshaping the city of Houston. Interstate 45, or I-45 for short, is one of the most important transportation corridors in all of Texas. Built in the 1950s and 1960s, it was the first urban segment of the national interstate highway system to open in Texas. It stretches from Galveston on the Gulf Coast through Houston and continues north to Dallas, serving as a major economic artery for the state. The segment of the interstate that runs through North Houston has evolved into a critical commuter route and also a constant source of frustration. Originally built for far lower traffic volumes, I-45 now carries about 200,000 vehicles that travel northbound each day, and as many as 275,000 vehicles in certain stretches, according to the Texas Department of Transportation's traffic counts. Just by looking at photos of Houston's massive interchanges and sprawling road layouts, it's no surprise that the city consistently ranks among the most congested urban areas in the US, and I-45 is one of its most problematic corridors. The specific stretch of the interstate that is being targeted for the improvement project is the one between downtown and Beltway 8, which is arguably the single most critical corridor in the entire city. It encompasses key choke points including the I-10, I-69, and Loop 610 interchanges. These junctions are outdated, with short merge lanes, substandard design geometry, and limited shoulder space, all contributing to a higher than average frequency of crashes and delays. And it's not just commuters that are being affected by the congestion and other issues related to the highway. I-45 is part of the National Highway Freight Network and serves as a major route for trucks traveling between the Port of Houston, Dallas, and Mexico via I-35. But frequent bottlenecks in central Houston can delay cargo movement, affecting regional and national supply chains. Beyond congestion, the corridor is also prone to flooding, especially during heavy storms. During Hurricane Harvey, large sections of I-45 were submerged, cutting off access to downtown and emergency services. Things haven't exactly been improved with Houston's largely ongoing population boom. The metropolitan area grew with over 1 million residents from 2010 to 2020. The northern corridor is especially affected by this, as much of the population growth has occurred in the city's northern and northwestern suburbs, which heavily rely on the road to access jobs, healthcare, and other services in the urban core. On top of this, Harris County is expected to have gained an additional 1 million people by 2040, and studies from the Texas Department of Transportation, or TxDOT, estimate a 30% rise in traffic on I-45 by the same year. Considering how much pressure is already being put on the road every single day, a 30% rise would likely push the corridor beyond a functional tipping point. Well, if nothing is done about it, that is, and thankfully that's not the case. Even though it may seem like a fairly recent problem, plans to address it go back more than 2 decades. In the early 2000s, transportation planners at TxDOT began studying how to deal with the growing congestion and structural limitations of I-45. The corridor between downtown and Beltway 8 was identified as a priority, and the idea of a massive redesign began to take shape. Over the coming decade, the plans for the North Houston Highway Improvement Project started to solidify, especially after TxDOT released the draft Formal Environmental Impact Statement in 2017. In 2020, they received federal approval for the project through a record of decision. However, the project was paused in 2021 due to civil rights and environmental concerns. After negotiations, a voluntary resolution agreement was signed in March 2023, allowing the project to proceed with added oversight and community protections. And finally, construction on the North Houston Highway Improvement Project officially began on October 16, 2024. So let's take a closer look at the full project plan. First of all, it is split up into 3 segments, each targeting largely different stretches and focusing on specific problems along I-45 and adjacent interchanges. The first segment, which is being reconstructed, is Segment 3, which is by far the most transformative and controversial portion. Segment 3 will cover approximately 12 miles of freeway in total and aim to improve I-45 through downtown Houston, including parts of I-10, US 59/169, and even portions of SH 288. In this section, I-45 will actually be rerouted away from its current path along the Piers Elevated and moved eastward to align more closely with I-69 and I-10. The Piers Elevated, a structure that's long been criticized for dividing neighborhoods, is slated for removal or repurposing, opening up land in downtown for potential redevelopment. In place of the old alignment, a new series of sunken freeway segments will be built along the eastern edge of downtown, creating a more modern and direct route for through traffic. These depressed lanes will be designed to accommodate caps or deck parks, with the potential for public green space to reconnect the city's urban grid. Meanwhile, I-10 and US 59 will also be expanded and rebuilt, with improvements to the interchanges that serve downtown and surrounding neighborhoods. Segment 3 also focuses on improving connectivity in and out of downtown for drivers, especially on the west side, where access was more limited under the old Piers Elevated design. This is referred to as the Downtown Connector System and will basically consist of a new system of entrance and exit ramps that will connect the local streets to I-45. Next up is Segment 2, which runs 3 miles from I-610 down to I-10 just north of downtown. This segment involves rebuilding the freeway to modern standards and expanding capacity with managed lanes. The most critical part of this phase is the complete reconstruction of the I-45 and I-610 interchange, one of the busiest and most dangerous interchanges in Houston. This interchange will be reconfigured with longer merge lanes, wider ramps, and safer shoulders to reduce the number of accidents and breakdowns that currently clog the area. Another central part is the widening of I-45. 4 non-tolled managed lanes, or max lanes, will be added, 2 in each direction, providing 24/7 availability for transit and at the same time aiming to improve traffic efficiency. And last up is Segment 1, which will encompass the remaining 9 miles of the road from I-610 to Beltway 8. Segment 1 will practically continue where Segment 2 left off and will have many of the same new features. The widening of the I-45 will continue here along with upgrades to the main lanes, drainage systems, and the frontage roads. TxDOT also plans to integrate bike and pedestrian infrastructure along the corridor, a feature long absent in Houston freeway design. Looking at the timeline for the project, Segment 3, which is split up into multiple subsegments, is by far the biggest part and has of course already started construction with a completion date set sometime in the early to mid-2030s. Meanwhile, Segments 2 and 1 are still much farther off. Both are in the advanced planning and design stages, but construction is not expected to begin until the early 2030s at the earliest. Factors such as funding, final engineering, and community impact mitigation are still being worked through. As of now, their completion is close to 2 decades away, projected to push into the 2040s. The total estimated cost for the full NHHIP is over $13 billion, making it one of the most expensive infrastructure projects in both Texas and American history, with Segment 3 alone accounting for the majority of that cost, that is somewhere between $7 and $9 billion. As for funding, the Texas Department of Transportation is the main driver and manager, collaborating with the likes of the Federal Highway Administration, the City of Houston, and Harris County to bring the project to life. That said, not all portions of the project are fully funded yet. While initial subsegments of Segment 3 have secured financing, future parts of the project are still awaiting budget commitments and environmental clearance. However, while the project is now underway, pushback and criticism against it have been strong. The main concern has been regarding the displacement of hundreds of residents in low-income Black and Latino neighborhoods. Over 1,000 properties are slated for removal, including 900 plus homes, 344 businesses, and 2 schools. This, along with the project's impact on air quality in the area, caused the Federal Highway Administration to launch a civil rights investigation that put the project on pause for 2 years. However, a mutual agreement between the Federal Highway Administration and Texas Department of Transportation was reached in 2023, where TxDOT agreed to allocate $30 million to affordable housing for the displaced residents, improve public outreach, and look for a way to reduce environmental impacts. Although many people agree that the project is needed in order to accommodate the city's increasing population, critics argue that highway expansion just leads to more traffic. When you add more lanes, more people will choose to drive, ultimately canceling out the congestion relief which the project was meant to provide. Houston's own history also largely supports this concern. Projects like widening of the Katy Freeway or I-10 initially did manage to reduce traffic, but eventually became just as congested as before. As the expansion moves forward, we'll be keeping a close eye on its progress. What do you think about the project? Is it a necessary investment or a step in the wrong direction? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching.